Well, welcome to Town TV, welcome to the UFO show, and we just all turned up in Avebury. We've had a report from a gentleman called John Keene that something was seen up on the Ridgeway. We don't know what it was, but apparently it was quite spooky. It could be an alien, it could be something supernatural, it could be an ancient spirit. But I think Colin Andrews has just arrived, and Reg is over there talking to John, but I think it says Colin over here. Ooh. Apparently this thing's a bit spooky tonight.
This sounds to be a little bit different, this one. Yeah, I've come across on your, responding to your telephone call to have a word with Reg and this gentleman that's seen something very unusual.
Yeah, basically what happened, I was in a pub one night, and John Keene, who we're going to be talking to in a minute, came up to me. And for some reason, these things happen. People come up and start talking to you for no apparent reason.
Sure.
And you've told me about this before, and you think, that's strange. And how did he know I was interested in this sort of stuff? And how did he know I knew Reg? And it's really quite strange. And suddenly out comes this story about this apparition being seen on the Ridgeway. And it's meant to be 2 feet high. And anyway, I won't spoil the story because it's a wonderful story.
Yeah, right. And that's not so far from here, is it?
No.
What is it? The Red Line in Avebury.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course, it's crop circle land, Alan, as well.
Right, we've just come through some magnificent scenery.
Absolutely.
And it's been incredible. But
the sun wasn't out.
Avebury, I mean, for all our Wiltshire viewers, Avebury is quite all these stones. I mean, where do you think these came from?
Oh, I've no idea. I mean, this goes back, 5,000-6,000 years.
Yeah.
It's the largest monolithic stone structure in the world, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, it's been the hub of the activity with the crop circles and a great deal of UFO activity. So this is certainly of interest to us. I think it's a credible witness you've spoken to. The guy himself?
Yes.
Seemed to be?
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. It's that guy over there talking to Reg. So,
right. Oh,
so
well,
we're going to have a... His name's John Keene, and we'll go and see...
Well, thanks for inviting us over, Alan.
We'll go and see what's happening. Well, as you can see, Reg and Colin Andrews are in deep conversation with John Keene and Angela, his wife. And we've been told it's about 10 miles from here, 15-minute drive up on the Ridgeway. Chiselden, so that's where we're going to be going, to Chiselden. So it's a beautiful pub, the Red Lion. Pity we can't stay here all evening, actually. It's absolutely fantastic. But John will tell us his story once we get to the Ridgeway. So we'll see you over there in just a minute.
At a place called Chiselden, very close to Swindon, and also near Barbary Castle and Liddington. John Keene's had a sighting here, but I'd like to first tell you about the area. This whole area was a base for the World War I Army. And this over here was the old platform of a station where the troops would be taken off, probably to the coast for the whole war effort. Everything came up through this valley. And there's enough track just along here, I suppose about half a mile of track that's still visible just. You can imagine all the people that left here for the First World War, and not many of them came back. In fact, a lot of people, a lot of soldiers also committed suicide because they didn't really want to go, and I don't blame them, do you? But from here, John Keene's had a row with his girlfriend, and one night he walked down a lane very close and sat on a rock, just contemplating the argument, when suddenly he saw something. Now we have to find out exactly what he saw. Come with me. Well, John, we're in a very strange area. We know about the old railway line over there in the First World War and that. What brought you here that night?
Well, I live just across the way, and it was an evening just like tonight. And we'd had a bit of an argument at home, and as I'm wont to do sometimes, I came down here just to contemplate the world and gather a little bit of peace together. And I was sat here, quite peaceful. It was beautiful, the birds were singing, I was looking out across the downs, and just in front of me, about 10 feet away, this black shape appeared before me. It was about 2 feet high. It appeared just straight out of the ground. And the thing that hit me is that it was completely pitch black. It was just
the object was black. Yeah.
Yes, it was just starting to get dusk, but this was absolutely black. And there was a very, very strong feeling of evil as it gradually grew. It grew to about the height of a person, but there was no distinct shape at all. It was a complete waving figure.
Did you actually see it come from the ground?
Yes.
And did it stay at a certain height before it grew, or what?
Just very briefly, at about 2 feet high, just like a black pillar, and then it started to build up into I would say the height of a person, but not really the definite shape of the person.
What did you think at that point?
I was mesmerised, to be honest. I mean, it's not the first time I've seen anything, but it was the feeling that went with it, more than what you could see. It was just pure evil, and I got the impression that it was very, very ancient.
Did you want to move?
I did. I suppose the whole thing only lasted 30 seconds or so I didn't really get time to collect my thoughts. I was just fascinated, a sort of horrible fascination about what was going on. Once it had grown to the height of a person, then it gradually moved off and up the track here.
Away from you?
Away from me, which gave me a little bit of a feeling of relief, I must admit.
When did you decide to go? At what point?
I was still watching it, and it got up the track here about 15 to 20 feet and then just disappeared. 1 second it was there, the next it had gone completely. And at that point, I think it sort of broke the atmosphere, and I decided it was about time that I wasn't here and was back home. And I did decide to move back off the track here somewhat rapidly. When I got about a quarter or halfway down, I did look back, and it had reappeared and was coming after me. And then, amazingly, I think I did the 4-minute mile. But I did move rather rapidly.
John, was there any smell or sound at all
None
when all
whatsoever.
this was happening?
None whatsoever. No, it was just now and again you do get a bit of an atmosphere.
Sorry. The lady that we met as we arrived here with the television crew was talking. I think she lives behind us here in this bungalow, and she clearly also is sensing something very, very unusual. I think she was talking to us a few moments ago about the horses. Without any real explanation, seem to be running and cantering around here as if they've been frightened by something. So it would seem, even the people living here have a sense of something very mysterious.
We've had problems with one of our neighbours with her dog being upset at the other end of this trackway, which is about a quarter of a mile long, and several occasions the dog just won't go past the entrance to this track. It's only every now and again. I mean, we all walk our dogs up here, we all come here for a peaceful amble, and normally there's no problems whatsoever.
Could you see through the blackness? No. I mean, so it was solid.
It was absolutely black and solid, yes.
Yeah.
It's just that the shape, once it had grown to its full height, was not distinct. It was constantly moving.
Shimmering.
Yes.
Which sounds, Reg, a little bit like the report that we've listened to up at Alton Barns, a few miles away from
Polly Carson.
Absolutely, from a farmer, Polly Carson, where an awful lot of crop circles had actually occurred on her farm, also below the Ridgeway. And her horse, and she also was.
In actual fact, it was on the old Ridgeway path.
Yes, it was.
It's now a concrete road in her.
That's right.
At her farm, but it's the old ancient road.
I think have you had other experiences which might maybe suggest that you, in fact, are some sort of catalyst for this?
I have seen a lot of things over the years, yes, and sensed a lot of things. But nothing as frightening as this. Most of the time it doesn't worry me at all. It seems perfectly natural, but it was the atmosphere of this. I can't really explain it, but just a feeling of pure evil and a distinct feeling that you don't want to be around when it is.
So, John, I understand you've had other experiences, which have been unusual. Maybe you think you're a catalyst for this?
Well, it's possible. I have seen and heard an awful lot of strange happenings, but I must say that nothing has ever worried me before like what I saw here. Most of the time things are over fairly quickly and seem perfectly natural at the time. And it's only after, when it's disappeared, that you start thinking, well, what have I just seen?
Yeah, right.
But it was the overwhelming evil thing here which really got to me.
Well, John, it's getting a little bit dusk now, and we don't really want to be around this rock, do we?
I'm inclined to
should we
agree with you, actually,
sort of
yes.
wander?
Time I was getting home, I think.
This is a beautiful landscape, having said all of that. Very close to Barbary Castle here.
Yes.
It is a beautiful setting.
So there are some other strange things that have happened in and around this area as well. Over on the road, for instance, there was something that happened many years ago. Barbary Castle, you've got the one of the strangest formations that ever came up.
1990, major development in the crop circle phenomena. And the
Colin, last year there was an experiment done in, I believe, Canada.
That's right.
Where there was high voltage cables and they set off a magnetic field around, no matter where they are. If they're very close to the brain, it can do things. You can have
an induced effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. The experiment that you're referring to, I have, quite familiar with that. They placed electrodes across a part of the right-hand side of the brain and induced, in fact, an abduction type scenario. The individual concerned, when they started the experiment, could see an extraterrestrial. Well, as you were saying, Reg, there's something like
here we are. There's a man, John, sat on a rock, and just across the road here is a huge cable in there. I mean, how many volts is going through there?
There's 11,000 volts there, which is on the electricity board distribution system coming from the farm over the back there, right up to the edge of the road where he sat.
And it also crosses the road, doesn't it? Just here. It must go underground there.
That's right.
And straight across. Now, this used to be the area with all those soldiers in. They must have been supplied with a lot of juice.
An awful lot of electricity, it's true. Where the trench is, though, Reg, picking up on your point, is exactly where John first saw this emanating.
That's right.
So
very close to it.
Very close. Very close.
So, I mean, you have to take you have to take these things into consideration as well.
Sure.
Maybe we'll see something here if we sit here long enough now. I mean, he was sat here for about an hour or something, probably, and if you're sat near those cables for that long, there is a possibility.
Certainly. That the current is being drawn through those cables. The electromagnetic field is encompassing us as we sit here right now. So we're sat in the same circumstances, same conditions.
And it's almost the same time of night that John saw it.
Yeah. But we haven't had an argument with our wives, Reg.
No, we haven't had an argument with our wives.
Well, not until we get home. We're in a better frame of mind.
Now, let's have an argument. Should we have a 5-minute argument or 10?